I'm Al McFarland. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarland. Today is our Wednesday edition, and Wednesdays we talk to entrepreneurs, to business owners. We talk about business and economic development. So pleased to have a dear friend of mine, Marvin Smith, who is the owner of Bogar Construction, and who today joins us representing an organization he's serving as the interim president, I believe. That's the National Association of Minority Contractors of Minnesota. Maybe it's of the upper Midwest, I'm not sure. You can tell me, Marvin. But Marvin, good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Unmute your mic. And how you doing, my friend?
Thanks, Al. I'm doing well. On behalf of the NAMC and the community, I thank you for giving us the opportunity to have this, I think, very rich and needed discussion on what we do with the NAMC, and certainly highlighting some of the businesses in our association and the impact that we can have in our community. So I want to just thank you.
I'm going to come back to you in a second because I want you to start off by giving NAMC 101. Just tell people who might not know of the organization what the organization's history and mission are and how you bring value to each other and to the community. But I want to introduce two of your colleagues who are members of NAMC. Tamala Lacey is the operations director of operations at Skyline Heating and Air. Tamala, good afternoon. Good to see you, and thank you so much for being here.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Marvin, for inviting me. We're happy to be here. Skyline Heating and Air is a heating and cooling company in the community. As you said, members of the NAMC. My husband, Kevin Lacey, has been a member of NAMC for many, many, many years and has held several offices in the NAMC. So this new company that we've started just November of last year that is doing great in the community and surrounding areas is happy to be here, happy to be part of NAMC. Minority Contractors. We've been in the field for many years. My husband has 35 years of experience in the field. Our partner has 10 years of experience in the field. I have 13 years of experience as an entrepreneur in business and about 5 years of experience in the trades. So we know what we're doing in the trades. We're here to serve the community and the surrounding areas. And our tagline is, your comfort is our only product. So
there we go. We're gonna come back and unpack all of that. That's wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Let me also introduce another member, a colleague, Nancy St. Germain, who is the owner of Raven Construction Incorporated. Nancy, good to see you. How are you? Thank you for being here.
Doing well. Thanks so much for having us.
Well, great. Give me the 30-second on St. Germain, and we'll come back around for a deeper dive in a minute.
All right. It's a French Ojibwe. So we're from the Turtle Mountain Reservation in North Dakota. So native woman-owned company, self-performing, primarily in the commercial construction. Been in the field for about 20 years now. Paid my way through college doing tile work and learned a number of skills along the way. So honored to be here and pleased to be a part of the community and the NAMC.
Phenomenal. So Marvin, let's come back to you. Do
Sure.
two things. One, give us a 30-second on Bogar Construction, and then start talking about NAMC, what the organization is, who's involved in it, and what things are you trying to do to support the members, minority contractors in Twin Cities, and also to bring value to the marketplace.
Okay, Al, once again, thank you. Good afternoon. I have been an entrepreneur for many, many years. I started Bogar Construction 12 years ago. Bogar just happens to be my family name. We've been here, my family's been here, Al, since the 50s. And, I just felt it was a way to honor them by naming it Bogar. What we do in terms of our trade is we perform interior demolition and final cleaning. And at our core value is being very intentional with hiring members from our community and trying to provide some mentorship that will allow them to not only succeed at Bogar, but to succeed, at other venues, other companies, and just to succeed at life in general. I was blessed with the opportunity, Al, to become the interim president of the National Association of Minority Contractors. My hope is that I will eventually be elected as the president. I think for me, I've been a part of this community all my life. I'm a native Minnesotan, raised in North Minneapolis. And, I've been in this here civil rights fight since the early days in the 60s with Spike Moss and the Way and that stuff. And so when I look at fulfilling the shoes of past presidents, I think that I bring hopefully a kind of a different perspective, certainly a different experience in that I think the position requires that an individual, first of all, has to have the heart of a community activist, which I think I have. And then being an African-American man owning a small minority company, I think is a trifold. It gives me, I think, the opportunity to accept the position of president, and more importantly, to be able to look at those things that are problematic in our community with regards to, the gamut of everything when we talk about quality of living, when we talk about those must-haves to have a wholesome, a wonderful life that Minnesota touts itself as being, in the sense that it gets all these awards year after year for great park systems and great this and great that. But we know that underneath that, and certainly as it relates to us, we have problems. So when we talk about the problems, we talk about, the historical problems that we know that we've faced as African Americans for, 4 centuries. And the NAMC was started as a result of lack of opportunity, being the victim of these institutions of racism that deny, people of color and certainly, Black folks the opportunity to thrive and do well in this society. So in 1969, a group of African-American contractors got together and said, we're getting all this little piddly work doing residential, but as we ride down the highways and byways, we're seeing big cranes and, heavy equipment, and we're seeing these big jobs going on, which we're not a part of. And so as a result, they got together and formed the NAMC, who currently now is housed in, I think, 49 states as we speak. And if we look at the data back there, Al, what we find out is that various entities, state and federally funded entities, were spending billions and billions of dollars, and African Americans were getting less than 1%. There was a study, a disparity study, 2017, that pretty much showed the same numbers. Sadly, we have not progressed that far regarding providing opportunities for minority-owned companies. And so our challenge, and I'm speaking to all of the members, and I'm speaking to, all entrepreneurs and business people in our community. Our challenge is to look at how do we increase our participation all across the board. And, we're looking at a number of different strategies, all the way from having to deal with unions, look at set-asides, look at the bundling, et cetera, et cetera. Because here's what we know, Al. We know that minority-owned companies are far more likely to hire minority workers, and that those workers, by and large, are far more successful working with us than working at these other jobs. Couple that with the fact that, we look at the culture on these jobs where we've never, ever had an opportunity to be. And it's almost impossible, or you certainly got to be real skeptical of any of these individuals realizing any success when they're the only African-American man or woman on a job. You know what I mean? And so, you know, one of the things that, a number of things we do, but one of the things that we try to do is to work with the larger generals to talk about, you know, what are some of the cultural things that affect our ability to be successful once we get out on the job. The NAMC also does a lot of, you know, advocacy, training, mentoring, you know, for young men and women as well. So, you know, we been around since, in this area, we've been around since 1984. And we hope to continue the tradition of challenging those systems that have historically denied us opportunity. And like I said, you know, you can look at the two members there. I mean, we got strong men, strong women who have been in this struggle, you know, by owning their own businesses for decades. And rest assured that, you know, we are going to be mighty, and we're going to start kicking down some doors and getting our men and women out on these jobs, because we know that when we look at the ills of our community, we know that it's a byproduct of poverty. Not that we got bad people in our community, but it's about poverty. And if we can decrease the unemployment rate, which in this state is twice as high as white people's, we know that we're going to slowly start seeing a increase in productive young people and a decrease in destructive young people. So.
Great opening. You know, as you're talking, I went back to the archives of Inside News, and I'm going to pull up a little later and share the screen. I pulled up the Inside News from, let me open it up so I can see it right now, from, looks like it's March of 2018. And our cover said, "Numbers don't lie." And it's a cover that talked about what you just talked about, this history of exclusion that goes on even today. And for example, I'm putting my glasses off so I can see here, this report that was done by the state of Minnesota said that in Minnesota, non-targeted or WMBE businesses got 90.92% of a $4.2 billion spend in state purchases, right? Women businesses got 6%. That came to $278,000, $278 million in contracts. African Americans, by contrast, so 6% for women, African Americans got half of 1%. That year, total purchased with African American businesses out of $4+ billion was $23 million, representing half of 1%. Native American businesses that year, 0.75, 3/4 of 1%. Total purchases by the state of Minnesota, $34 million, almost $35 million. And Hispanic Latino businesses, 0.38%. Their total purchases from the state of Minnesota amounting to about $17.5 million. Finally, Asian American businesses, they were best following the women-owned businesses with 1.44% of the $4 billion spend. Their receipts were in the area of around $67 million. But what it shows you is that though there's been this, as you said, tremendous amount of lip service about how great things are, how liberal and progressive Minnesota is, the numbers don't lie. And I'm going to see if I can share the screen because it's a powerful graphic that people should look at as we continue to talk, because, you know, that's what this is all about. How do we break through these barriers? and get, you know, our story out there. And let me see if I can share this right now. Hold on. And this is it. And now I'm not sure if you're seeing the screen now or not. Let's see. There we go. Are you seeing the screen? Numbers don't lie?
Yep.
And so, you know, dive in a little deeper, Marvin. So what does this mean? So on the one hand, we hear this story about, you know, progressive, we want inclusion, we want diversity. On the other hand, if you examine it, you see nothing has happened. One thing I heard and have heard in talking with people like us here on this conversation is that another way to look at this is to look at how much of our money is being left on the table. We're not getting our share. And I just remember a conversation we had a few years ago, Marvin, where we talked about in the construction trades in particular, if or highway or heavy, you know, construction, if there was a project and if the state or the county had set a 35% target or goal for minority vendors, and if they ended up only getting 9% or 10% or 12% and not the 35%, that means that the difference of money that should be in our businesses, money that should be going to our families, our workers, our employees, our community economies is being taken from us, being left on the table. Somebody's eating our lunch.
Absolutely.
What do you think about that?
Well, you know, Al, it gets back to just the systematic racism that, you know, we've experienced, you know, ever since being at the funeral, when he said that for 400 years, you have had your knee in our throat. Had you not done that, we would have reached great heights in terms of success. And this is one example. And, you know, when you look at the fact that in 1969, the disadvantaged business enterprise was started, 1964 was started out of the civil rights movement as a law, which in effect, Al said that, just as like you mentioned, these state and federal jobs were supposed to provide 10, 12% of minority participation, right? Fast forward to now, from the time of its inception to now, the larger contractors were able to see it and use it and react to it like it was a program, which means it was optional to succeed in achieving these goals or not. And so one of the things that is glaringly apparent for us now in NAMC is that we need to start knocking on doors and reminding these general contractors that you are in violation of the law from the 1964 Civil Rights Act. This is not a program that you get to meet or not meet.
And it's not charity that you're doing. It's not charity that you're doing a favor to somebody for either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, armed with that type of information, you know, we're far more fortified, formidable. And, you know, that conversation in 2021 is going to take on a totally different tone, in that we are insisting that we get our fair share. You know, we pay the same gasoline tax, MnDOT. You know what I mean? We pay the same property taxes, City of Minneapolis, Ramsey County, Hennepin County, Met Council, the FAA, you know, the list goes on and on. And so to answer your question, if we want to deal with the ills that we see in our community, then it's incumbent upon every person in our community to rally behind this ideal that the NAMC, small minority businesses, if they are successful, can in fact have a positive impact on the well-being of our community. And so this is a call out to our communities that we need your help. We need you to go to Skyline Heating and get your furnace, right? We need you to contact Raven Construction when you got a remodeling job. We have plumbers, we have electricians, we have pretty much every trade in our association that can do work from foundation to the roof. And so we need the community to understand that we are a intricate part on being able to make our community safer, to create commerce, to provide opportunity, to decrease a lot of the ills that we see as a result of poverty and lack of opportunity.
Wonderful. Let's go back to Lacey. Thank you. We're going to come back and do more on these themes, Marvin. Thank you for your clarity. I think that's really the order of the day, to talk about our move towards clarity, our expectations, our demands, and what we want to deliver in terms of participation in the economy for our businesses and for our community. Tamala, you know, your company is a legacy company. The name is the gold standard in your industry.
That is correct.
You should talk about what the Lacey name means. It's generational. And, you know, you talked about Kevin's, what, X number of years, but he's, to my understanding, at least the second generation of the family.
Yeah.
And like I said, Lacey, gold standard. Talk about your company, your background, the company's background. Then I want to ask you about your background as an entrepreneur.
Oh, thank you for asking. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about Ed Lacey. Because Kevin is in the field today and he couldn't be here a part of this, but he can't talk about what he does without mentioning his uncle, who brought him into this field, taught him most of what he knows, and then encouraged him that learning from your uncle or your family member is good, but go to school, learn the trade, so that when you fight for a place on a job, or when you are supported by the NAMC and say, we need to get a foot in the door as well, you have the education to support that. Because every time, it's easy to get on the job. That's not hard, because people have goals to meet. Companies have goals to meet. You can get on the job, but if you don't have the training that'll keep you there, it's going to be 10 times harder for them to keep you there. And they're going to try everything to get rid of you anyway. You didn't ask me about that. Let me go
but that's
back.
what I want to hear.
Let me go back.
We're going to be for real today.
I can't accurately say how many years Ed Lacey worked in the field of heating and cooling in Minneapolis. I don't know that number. I should, but I don't. But I know he was right here in the community, right on Broadway, Broadway and Penn. Yep. And Kevin trained under him. And Kevin's been doing it, like I said, for 35 years. So it's a legacy, it's a family. There's a branch off from Skyline. It's BJ Lacey. I just want to throw that in there because he just sent me a message while we're here. So BJ, I'm shouting you out as well. The Lacey name and heating and cooling and ventilation, it carries weight. If you don't know about Lacey and HVAC, you should know. Ask somebody. And whatever they say, we are here to prove to you that we have everything that it takes to make you comfortable in your home, in your business, regarding HVAC. Years of experience just speaks for itself, really. You can't throw a stick in the Twin Cities without hitting somebody that has had some work done by our organization under whatever name, by Kevin Lacey or New Ed Lacey. It's a small but big town. And we're here, and Skyline is the future of the Lacey legacy.
What all do you do? Let's take a minute to promote the actual work that you're selling and doing right now. Somebody might not be aware, and I want to make sure we haven't missed the opportunity to specifically invite people to call your company and do business with you.
Absolutely, thank you. I'll get to how to reach us in a moment. What we do is heating and cooling. We make you comfortable. If your furnace is not working, if your radiators are not working, if your AC is not working, if it's working too much, we make you comfortable. We do residential work, we do commercial work, and in fact, our whole team is on a commercial job today, which is why Kevin couldn't be here. I've heard other contractors say things like a big commercial or small residential job. I assure you that if your furnace goes out in your house and it's 30 below zero, that is not a small job. So what we do is provide comfort. We sell comfort. We want to make sure you're comfortable. We have hours that are listed on our website, and we're on Home Advisor, we're on Angie's List, we're on Yelp. Great reviews, so please go there and see our reviews and see what people are saying about us. Our hours are listed, but because we are so community oriented, if you call us at any time, you're going to get a person, and it could be the middle of the night. Kevin hates it when I say this, but it could be the middle of the night. If it's freezing out and you don't have heat, even if Kevin doesn't want to go himself and we don't have someone to send right away, nobody's sleeping until you get heat. That's community oriented. We want to make sure that you're comfortable, not just because it's our business, but because we care about people. We care about the simple needs, and comfort is a simple need. Now, I will give you our contact information. You can call 763-208-1558. That will get you to, it will only get you to a voicemail now because I'm doing this, but any other time, that is going to get you directly to me. I'm the director of operations, which is a fancy way of saying that I handle everything except what's happening in the field, unless they need me in the field, in which case I put my boots on and head out to the field to lend a helping hand.
Amazing, amazing, wonderful. Thank you, Tamala. Tamala, am I saying it the right way?
Yes,
Great.
Tamala.
Great, great. So let's go to Nancy St. Germain. Nancy, again, thank you for being here. And I was intrigued by your story as being an Ojibwe and woman-owned business. Unpack that for me. Talk about your story, how you got into the business and how you've been able to grow, and what your vision and your mission are.
Well, thank you, Al. Appreciate the opportunity here, and I'm honored to be here with Tamala and Marvin. I'm one of the firstborn in my family off the reservation in North Dakota, Turtle Mountain Reservation. Born and raised in North Minneapolis, and have had the opportunity to travel some and learn about the world. My mother was my first mentor, raised by a single mom, and, started changing faucets under the sink, that type of thing, and just being supportive around the house. She started a company when I was a teenager, self-taught in the computer world, Raven Network Solutions. And when she retired and sold her company, that was an inspiration to me that my continuous and probably infuriating curiosity and passion to learn and to work with my hands, engaged me to get a degree in community development, do a lot of community organizing work, technical assistance, and started in the development world. Became a realtor, worked in construction and renovations in multifamily housing, and moved into the commercial world. Eventually became a licensed contractor and started my own company in 2015. And I can't imagine going back and doing something else now. I'm empowered to represent my family name and to be one of few Native-owned firms and woman-owned firms, self-performing that work. And I'm inspired by other women and Native people and minority-owned, contractors that I get to work with and help them to start their own company, and now, be a mentor to them, and share what I've learned, through the variety of mentors that I have still, and seek out. So as Raven Construction, I'm a licensed general contractor. We do a lot of design build work in the commercial world and residential. And we can work with clients everywhere from the design phase, trying to figure out the process, the financing, all the way to execution to the very end. And I'm fortunate to have, repeat customers and work with minority-owned firms, as the contractors, as my clients, nonprofits, community development corporations, and continue to support their missions, which is ultimately my mission to empower community and other, minority-owned businesses. So.
Tell me more about your background. You said your mom started the business. Tell me about your generational background, if you would. And the question is, what is it, I'll ask all of you this, that pours into and creates the Nancy St. Germain of today? I believe that all of us carry generations within us, and that we have an obligation. I think that the ancestors, so this is Al McFarland, I believe that the ancestors walk with us all the time. They transition, but they never leave us, right? And we simply need to figure out how we stay connected, stay humble enough, listen quietly, and they guide us, they direct us, and they really applaud us when we do what we're supposed to be doing and have successes. Even when we have difficulties, they give us the courage and strength to get back up and get through. That is difficult. So in that spirit, Nancy, I'm a little bit about of legacy, the sense of generations that you have.
I think that it would be probably the absence or the void,
et cetera.
Yeah, I think it's probably for me the absence or the void of generations ahead of me. It's the disconnect due to the forced schooling, of Native people, right, and the whitening of the culture, the disconnect between our language and our food and our people, and our place, right, the relocations. And so I think for me, it's about the depths of poverty that my family came from, that I blessedly did not have to experience at the same level that they did, but that it's an inspiration for me to continue to empower other Native and minority, contractors and youth, right? So how do we work ourselves out of this class position that we did not ask to be placed into, but that we've been forced and held in? So how do we support each other and work together, and to uplift out of poverty and to provide an education and opportunity and live by example, so that we can show that there are other paths and other ways and continue to grow and support each other. And that is the new generation, that I can provide that opportunity for my children, to continue on.
Take a minute to talk about the services provided by Raven Construction, Inc. Let's try to get you some new business right now. Somebody listening on YouTube or on Facebook is going to be happy to learn about you.
Yeah, so I'm a realtor. I work with a number of different nonprofits, representing them as their realtor. The Creative Enterprise Zone in St. Paul, helping support Lake Street Council, connecting the businesses affected from the uprising with the minority contractors and helping to support those businesses. So I provide quite a bit of technical assistance in addition to actual construction. So I like to keep my hands in a little bit of everything, and along the way, I want to swing a hammer, and I want to do some framing and build beautiful things and help people to execute their vision on a budget, and be aware of that. But I also want to be providing technical assistance and supporting that growth and that work of small businesses, and nonprofits and other community development corporations, and then also do real estate work. That's all thrilling and exciting stuff. So
you and Tamala both kind of shatter the myth of what a woman's place is, because you both are hands-on as entrepreneurs, but as you just said, you like to swing a hammer. every now and then. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And Tamala just said how if the call comes in, she puts the phone down and puts the boots on and gets out there, with the rest of the team to serve the mission. The mission is the comfort of the customer. And I think that's a powerful statement and a wonderful thing. Tamala, let me go to you, back to you, and ask you the same kind of question. When you introduced yourself, you said that you yourself were an entrepreneur. So what does that mean? What is your entrepreneurial path? And in discussing that, respond to the same question that I asked Nancy. Generationally, what is it in your ancestors that form the Tamala of today?
I could not be an entrepreneur without my ancestors. I tell people that I've heard people say, you only get one mother, and I'm so grateful that that is a lie. I was raised by 9 women who were sisters to my father, all very strong, independent leaders in the community, leaders in our family, just solid rocks that you can depend on. They owned property. They owned a restaurant that I grew up working in. And that created the me. So I went from that, working in the restaurant, to working other places and developing skills and going to school and working at the University of Minnesota, which is, I think, is the last place I worked for someone else. And having this burning in me that I'm working here to learn some things that I'm going to take into my own, because I have to work for myself, and not just work for myself because that's a business owner. I need to be an entrepreneur where I'm creating opportunity for other people to make money and support themselves and support their families and grow, grow financially, grow emotionally, spiritually, however I can help people. So that's where it came from those women who were always nurturing and teaching me. People who know me say that I'm always teaching or mothering someone. I'm the perpetual mother. I'm the mother in our company from those women. And I'm strong if you haven't picked up on it. If you don't know, you will know. Because of those women, my ancestors, my mamas.
Well, you know what will be cool, so I'm feeling you. And I think it's wonderful to say their names. I think their names are important. So anybody you want to talk about, shout out.
Oh my God.
Let's give them props right now if you up for that. You don't have to, but I'm saying, they deserve it. They deserve to be recognized.
Names like Johnny Mae Washington and Gertrude and Ruby and Essie and Bessie and Mary and Betty, who was known as Punch. Punch, I would tell the story and let me not miss any of them. There's Gert and Jean. Did I miss any?
They're gonna let you know.
Callie.
Okay.
Callie. I think I got them all. But let me go back to Punch. Punch was that one who, I don't know that she owned any land, but if I ever needed a place to stay, if I ever had any issues in life, and I did as I was growing up, I could call Punch and it didn't make any difference what it was. She's coming to get me. She's sending for me. I'm going to be safe. And because of Punch and Aunt Johnny, who did own a house that everybody stayed in, it's important to me to own property. Because if somebody needs a place to stay, I have a place for them to stay. So many people, man, you made this about me now for a moment, so I'm gonna go. And this is all part of our business also. But because of my ancestors, so many people have passed through my house on their way to their what's next. And so many people can tell you, I stayed in that house and I slept in this room and I felt comfort and love and healing. And then when I was better, I could go on to do what I thought I wanted to do. That's what my ancestors brought to me and gave to me. I'm not in this business even just to say, you know, I own my own business and I make my own money and I'm a strong Black woman. All those things are true.
Mhm, mhm.
But it's the avenue for me to be able to continue what my ancestors did for me, what they did for our community and for our family. So thank you so much for the opportunity to go off on that tangent, because I could talk about those
Listen,
women and what
listen,
they did forever.
thank you so much for being willing to go there. And I think this is the kind of storytelling we simply have to do. And the conversations we're having with each other, the richness of it is that we're having this conversation with the entire universe. And we are declaring who we are, declaring both our gifts and our humbleness, our appreciation, our gratitude for the opportunity to be meaningful, to be of service to our family, to our community, and to the time that we're born. And Marvin, you know, when you started off, you talked about, and I asked you about it, and you said, well, the Bogar, that's our family name. So I'm going to ask you to go there and talk in the realm of legacy as well. You and I go back a long ways. You go back with my family a long ways.
Yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
tell people that Marvin has been one of the people that's helped keep the house, our office in North Minneapolis, in prime. And Marvin is also a person that's worked in my residence in North Minneapolis, where I'm living right now. I'm looking out my window at the marvelous garage that Marvin's
Yeah.
company built for me. And so he's a person that I can always recommend and talk about with confidence and with certitude, because he delivers. And plus he understands. Marvin and I have done public policy radio broadcasts before with his work as an organizer of minority realtors as well. And so we've been operating in that space. So Marvin, let me say that it's always a pleasure to connect with you, to talk to you, and to have a conversation with you that we can share to the world. In that spirit, talk about the Bogar name, the Bogar family, and again, what goes into creating the Marvin Smith that you are today?
Well, you know, my story is very similar to Tamala's in that the Bogar family, you know, was a large family. You know, back in the day in the 50s, you know, you had 10, 12 very large and prominent families. You know, it was long before, you know, people traveled here from, you know, the different states to live. So you kind of knew everybody. And our family, you know, got up here in the 50s. You know, we were here when Black folks couldn't even go up on Broadway. You know, people don't know that. And Black folks certainly couldn't live over Northeast. You know, Northeast was one of those sundown towns.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when the sun go down, you better get out there, or you better be good with your hands, you know.
Let me throw in the
fleet
joke
of
about
foot.
that. Marvin, you've heard this before. What's the longest bridge in the world? And that's one between Poland and Africa, right?
Yeah.
North side being Africa, Poland being Northeast. So that kind
Yes.
of folklore stuff has been around for a long, long time.
Yeah. But it is true though.
It's real.
You know?
Yeah.
It's very true. So, and again, you know, I really appreciate, you know, Tamala sharing that, because, you know, it really made me think about, you know, my uncles and aunties who I just have just enormous respect for. You know, we talk about that village, Al, and Tamala, you know, nailed it on the head. You know, that was her village of very strong, independent, entrepreneurial women who understood, you know, how to take their situation and maximize it for their gain and for the gain of their family and the gain of their community. Same way, you know, with my family, my uncles and aunties in particular, you know, they looked out for us. Not to mention, you know, if I had time and I was confident I would name all of the people, families we grew up with, but I know I'm going to miss a few, so I'm not going to do it. But, we grew up in a village, coming up through the Phyllis Wheatley in the 50s, there were men there. When you got out of school, we all went there, and there were men and women there to provide you with a hug, provide you with a chastising if need be. But we were safe. It was a village. We were safe. And then just growing up in North Minneapolis, there was always a village up until about 1980. And sadly, we know that that was the time that, they brought the crack in and started taking our men and putting them in prison. And so it left this void that, we're seeing now in terms of violence and abuse and incarceration and, lack of education, lack of home ownership, and it goes on and on and on. And, we have to, as a community, we all need to sit down, roll up our sleeves, and come to this agreement that, and I don't want to be discouraging to anybody or anything, because I know we do things for a reason, but we have to move past the ideal that a march is going to change our predicament, or that prayer is going to change our predicament. And again, do what you do to feel good. But at the end of the day, this community needs to come together, understand that in order to turn this community around, we're looking at a 10 to 20 year proposition in that, we have to start changing cultures, you know what I mean? And that's not, it took us 400 years of this horrendous conditioning to get this dysfunctional. The truth of the matter is, we're not going to be able to turn that around in a week or a year. And worse yet, we have to stop looking downtown for them to be our salvation and for them to come and bail us out. We need to look at, like the very thing we're talking about now. How do we increase training and employment and opportunity? What we're talking about is just a small part of that. Add in, let's own our own businesses. You know what I mean? You go up on Broadway, we got barbershops, we got churches. That's the extent of our commerce. You know what I mean? That does not sustain a community. And so we need to look at members of our community agreeing that this thing of Black freedom, liberation, and independence is going to happen once we roll up our sleeves and understand that it's going to require blood, sweat, and tears to get to the promised land, to get to the goal line. And I don't know if we're there yet. So, we have to start having that conversation that we're not going to change these kids, in a year or two. It's a long-term proposition, but we need to start today.
I'm going to share another screen and ask for your comments, Nancy in particular, and this is another inside cover. I don't know if you see it yet or not. Are you seeing that? Are you able to see my screen?
I can see it, Al.
Okay, Nancy, can you see it? You might not be able to. You're muted, Nancy. You're muted. You're muted.
I can just barely see it.
Okay, and so this is a picture of two friends of mine, David Carson and Sam's last name, Pacini. But these are both Northsiders, Northsiders, right? And they are also enrolled members of their nations. And they're also members of the community. And I was just so intrigued, Nancy, when you said I grew up in North Minneapolis, right? Part of the community. And there's this, I think, powerful and wonderful relationship between, the Native community, American Indian community and the African American or Black community, and in some cases they're one and the same because we are with each other. Some places not. I do know that as well. I know that the same is true with Black people, Marvin, and many of ours, like in my family, married to white people. So that's part of our community as well. Now we have a community that has a lot of Asian, Hmong, Vietnamese, and a lot of Latino, Hispanic communities. My family, my story is that I'm a Cuban American. My dad is from Cuba, and but I'm obviously, and I call myself an African American or African in the New World. The point of all this is looking at the point of culture. And Nancy, you mentioned the horrific experience of people trying to destroy or dismantle or dismiss Native culture, and your desire to move beyond that, to create connectivity and a pathway. How does culture come in your mind, Nancy? And I'm going to ask Marvin and Tamala to speak about that as well. Where do you discover strength in culture, or do you create it as you go? What do you think? Is it, and it might not be a fair question, and if you don't want to answer it, that's fine too.
I guess I'm not clear necessarily on the question per se,
I'm not clear in asking it either. I'm just rambling. So take it any way you can and go with it. Okay.
And I think it's a challenge, right? Because there's always the sort of the infighting in various groups, right? And so having been born and raised an urban Indian, there's some disconnect between whether I'm actually, Native American, or if I'm still connected to the tribe and the community there. And so it's hard to say, I'm not connected with the historic and the traditional, sort of community, more on the urban side of that, right? I'm familiar with the side of poverty of what it is to be a Native American because we're generations away from it. But I didn't have elders to look to learn from and grow from. So as I grow older and I'm feeling that loss, without family that's close, and the grandparents that I never met, that type of thing is learning the language again and trying to be reconnected, taking classes in Ojibwe and trying to find my place in the community as well, in that identity.
Marvin and Tamala, when you think about culture and identity, what comes to mind? And even before I let you go off, Nancy, one of the things you said early, you mentioned the rebellion, the uprising. And so what do we, from your point of view, what do we have to do? What can we do? What are we doing to respond to the challenges and the opportunity created by the uprising? And the same with COVID-19. Our lives are forever changed. How we do business changed, right? But in this moment of crisis, I believe we are emerging both clear-eyed and committed to take agency, to take control of our opportunity and to create a world, to be co-creators of a world that serves our people. And in serving our people, I believe we are serving humanity. Nancy, what do you think?
I would agree with that, absolutely. I think that we have to stop turning a blind eye, and we have to stop allowing others, to be blind to the reality of the situation, of the institutionalized racism, the socialized norm of it, that's created classism and a depth of poverty, that's near impossible to climb out of without each of us supporting one another. I think we have to demand, our place at the table, like Marvin was saying, that we have rights and we need to demand them now. We've waited and we've asked and we've been polite, and it's time to stop being so polite, and it's time to hold people, accountable for that. And really stop being polite, make sure that we're introducing one another and we're pushing forward and that we're saying the things that need to be said, even when it may not be Minnesota nice or politically correct, right? So when there's an opportunity, like on Lake Street, and North Minneapolis and St. Paul, the businesses that were damaged, rather than allowing these larger white firms to come in as developers or realtors or brokers or, you know, contractors. Like, be intentional about hiring minority owned firms, about, you know, Black, you know, and Native owned and, you know, Asian and Latinx, that working with those firms. There are lots of them out there, union, non-union, but there are places for all of them, and ensure that they're there earning, you know, some of this income that's available. And it's none of that work, for the most part, is probably going to need to be union. So there's a lot of opportunity for the smaller, you know, businesses to make
Chandler,
money there.
Chandler, what do you think? Jump in this conversation.
I think so many things. Regarding what has come about after the uprising, I have to say, and I hate to come across as too positive when everyone's talking about what's wrong, but our actual experience has been, we've received calls from individuals who specifically are looking for minority companies to do the work that we do. So we have not been negatively affected by it. Thank goodness. We haven't been negatively affected by COVID either. We've made the changes that we need to make when we have to go into personal homes or businesses. And so we are getting the calls. I can say that after the uprising, people are awakening. Change is happening. And, you know, when you say that, it's never fast enough for anybody. You know, it's happening, yeah, but is it happening fast enough? No, but it's happening. And I believe that if it happens for us, it could happen for any other company. So I'm grateful for that. I wanted to back up to something else that Nancy had said, expressed a couple of times, what she didn't have, or growing up in poverty and what was missing. My heart goes out to you, Nancy. I want to say that. Because I know when I talk about my ancestors, the pride just jumps out of my chest. And I wish that everybody could do that. And what I didn't mention in talking about my aunts, I didn't mention my father and my uncles. They were equally important to creating who I am today. And to something that Marvin said, when you say that praying is not enough, or we stop praying and jump into action, I'm almost there with you, because I'll say that faith without works is dead. So prayers need to pray. We need all of it. Prayers need to pray. People who take action need to take action. People when everything started happening and people were saying, well, why are they burning down buildings, and why are they doing this? And all I can say is it's all necessary. It's all necessary. No change happens without somebody being made uncomfortable. I take that back. No change happens without everybody being made uncomfortable. We're all uncomfortable. We're all giving up something. We're all giving up something for COVID. We're all giving up something for what has happened after we had to witness Mr. Floyd be murdered. We're all giving up something. But I refuse to be without hope and say, we're not doing anything and we all need to get up and do X, Y, or Z. We're all doing something, and whatever you're doing, it's enough until you're led to do something else.
Here we go.
I can't respond to the white people who come to me and say, what can I do? So don't do that, please, my friends. Don't do that. But I'll say, do something. As long as you're doing something, that's better than what was happening before, because I have been the invisible woman before. And I know that people see me now, not because necessarily anything that I've done, but because of everything that has happened.
That's right.
This change that made us all uncomfortable.
That's right.
Now you see me. And now that you see me and you hear me, I have something to say. I'm not just saying I'm angry because what happened in the past. I'm saying, listen, this is how we can move forward. This is what I'm doing. This is what I've been doing. You missed it, but that didn't mean it wasn't happening.
Marvin, you got to wrap it up, buddy. We're at the end of this program. This has been a wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful conversation, a great experience. And this is the beginning, because we hope, Marvin, that this will carry forward into bringing other members of NAMC on board on a regular basis to tell stories like this.
Oh,
These are
absolutely.
critical stories. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I really got to just give a shout out to both Nancy and Tamala. I mean, you guys are both just very, very powerful. You know, I was thinking about the culture question, Alan. You know, for 400 years, Black folks, you know, have been in this here condition to where we are so forgiving. You know what I mean? You know, we're such spiritual people. We're so forgiving. We've worked harder than white people to coexist with them, even though they were the ones with their knee in our throat. We would get up and dust ourselves off and keep going, and they'll stand there mad at us for whatever reason. And so, and Tamala touched on this, you know, it's time, Black folks, that we have to take this righteous anger and simply say no more. This is the time, 4 centuries later, that we need to stand up and say, I refuse to live in this country with this constitution that says that I have all these liberties to be free, yet find ourselves being second-class citizens. If you look up the definition of a second-class citizen, it says a group of people, usually minority, who are denied social, political, and economic equality. All of us Black folks and natives who have spent our lives in America, we have lived as second-class citizens. And so we need to be righteously angry and say absolutely no more. We're not going to accept it. And then we need to accept our responsibility, like Tamala mentioned, that we all need to do a little bit of something. And at the end of the day, we're going to have accomplished that big old something, which I hope is going to be the liberation, the freedom of Black folks, brown folks, red folks, yellow folks, and even white folks who, for whatever reason, have not been the recipients of what this great country has to offer. And again, Al, I want to thank you for giving us an opportunity to speak here. And we will come back. We got 30, soon to have 40, 50 members in our association that would love to come on the show, talk about their companies, and just talk about where they are in the richest in the spirit of just being here in America and thriving.
Let's make it so. Thank you so much. I'm Al McFarland. This is Conversations with Al McFarland. My thanks to Marvin Smith and Nancy St. Germain and Tamala Lacey for their leadership, their service, for their business acumen, and for their willingness to share their stories today. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.